And welcome back, everyone. Joining us for our roundtable tonight is Karen Giano, the chief strategist for the Trump campaign here in Florida, and Zach Anderson, the political reporter for the Herald. We just wrapped up Donald Trump's latest event here in Tampa. And Karen, if you could tell us a little bit about the strategy right now. I believe Mr. Trump is going to be in Florida at least once a week from now until the election.
We will absolutely have him here at a regular basis, as well as some of high-powered surrogates and Governor Pence. So Florida is a very, very important state. It's a must-win state. It's the largest swing state in the nation. And right now we have a wonderfully powerful program going on the grassroots level that we kicked off today with our RV #1, which will go through the I-4 corridor.
Voter registration.
Pretty much voter registration through September 10th, and then it will switch to actually doing activities and events to help with absentee ballots, and then the GOTV.
I remember you telling us at the convention in Cleveland that as soon as you got back here, there would be field offices opening all around Florida. I hear that is still coming, but it has not happened yet.
Right.
And meanwhile, the Clinton campaign is really out there with its ground game, and I believe they have 14 or 15 field offices around the state.
Well, I would challenge that statement, just to say that just because you have field offices doesn't necessarily mean you have a ground game. We have the RVs ready to go. We're actually taking this grassroots movement out into the neighborhoods, into the communities. There's two ways to look at this. The first is the level of enthusiasm through the record numbers of rallies. Every single person who comes to a rally is like a door knock to us, but we're not going to stop there. So we're outpacing the Democrats with voter registrations for over 67, just about 67,000, so it's just under 70,000. Remember, Barack Obama only won this state by 73,000 votes. So we're outpacing the Democrats right now. Here's what we're going to do. We're going into each community, 67 counties. Most people look at 10 counties as win counties. We're looking at all 67 counties. So we'll have 25 field offices up and running by Labor Day, but that's not where bricks and mortar do not make a campaign.
Zach, you are a great observer of all things political. What are your thoughts about what you saw here today in terms of the size of the crowd, comparing it to other Trump events and Hillary events in the last few weeks?
It's definitely not as big of a crowd as you've seen at some other Trump events. Of course, it is a midday, workday event. So I think, the room was about half full. So it wasn't as big as some of the stuff that you saw during the GOP primary or events that he's held on a Saturday or in an evening. But, it was still a fairly enthusiastic crowd. It was interesting to see him really stay on message. The last time he was in Tampa, he really actually went after his Republican critics almost as much as he went after Hillary Clinton, it seemed like. Last time he was in Florida, he was still talking about, he was still reeling a little bit from his feud with this Muslim family of a fallen soldier. So today he really kept his sights focused on Hillary Clinton. He went after her over, her emails and the FBI investigation, over her tax policy, over everything. He just wove his critique of Hillary Clinton throughout the hour-long speech, even questioned her stamina at one point. So he was pretty on message. It looked like he was reading from a teleprompter for most of the speech, so it seemed like a more disciplined candidate who was really focused on going after his Democratic opponent.
Karen, what about that? Because yes, the prompter was up there, and he wasn't, let's say, freelancing as much as he has done in the past. What has gone into getting Donald Trump to stick to a message and not going off script?
Well, I was just telling Zach that he actually went off script a couple times today. I think he's a very organic candidate. He's very honest.
That's affected him really in the polling since the conventions.
Well, I will say this. I think people are looking for an authentic candidate. That's who he is. I do not think that a voter is looking for somebody who is totally scripted. That we do want to keep him on message because there's a lot to be said. And in order to get it all out in 1 hour where he's addressing not only a crowd of individuals at the fairgrounds, let's say, but he's also talking to the entire Tampa Bay area. So, and beyond that. So in order to reach the majority of voters, we have to make sure that the message is strong, it's powerful, and it resonates.
Zach, what feeling that you get from voters around the Suncoast right now? Because they see these polls, they know that it's a real uphill roll around the country, and even in Florida, the polls did not look good. Have the true Trump supporters kind of resigned themselves, or do you feel that there's a lot of fight in them?
Well, I interviewed half a dozen Trump supporters here today, and all of them were still pretty enthusiastic about the candidate. A lot of them kind of question the polls. Some of them say that it's still really early in the campaign. So I don't think that he's lost his hardcore supporters. The question is, the independents, the people that are kind of on the fence, are they leaning more towards Clinton right now? Some of the polls might suggest that, although there was a good poll out for Trump today where he was actually leading Clinton by a couple points here in Florida within the margin of error, though. But the general trend for him over the last few weeks hasn't been great, but I think his support is still pretty strong amongst that hardcore group of folks.
And Karen, let me ask you this. Mr. Trump did an interview with us today, and we appreciate that. Is that a different strategy to get out there with local TV stations and talk directly to voters? Because obviously he has not been doing as many interviews over the last couple of weeks, with the exception of the Fox News channel.
Well, every time he comes to Florida, we do local hits. So I'm not sure where you're getting that from. The interesting thing I want to just mention about with Zach with the polling is that if you look at Hillary Clinton and how much money she spent here in Florida, I would be very, very hard pressed to think that she is not resonating with voters. She spent over $40 million, and we're in the margin of error. We just started spending money here last week.
And we'll have to leave it there. Thank you both for joining us.